Hi everyone, and welcome again to our Advanced SQL Source Control Operations module. In this class I'm going to be looking specifically at object locking. Now in other classes in this module we've looked at how we can resolve conflicts, and this is appropriate when we're working in the dedicated database development model. But some of you I'm sure will be working with a shared development model where there is only one central development database. So how do we protect those objects in this instance? Well, this is exactly where object locking comes in. What we have within the tool is an ability for you to take out temporary locks over objects so that you can complete your work, commit your changes to source control, and then release those objects for other developers to start making changes, safe in the knowledge that your version has already been preserved in the source control history. So to enable this, we actually have to turn on the feature within our SQL Source Control interface within SQL Server Management Studio. So before we look at how it works, let's show you how you can actually enable this functionality. So I'm going to hop into SQL Server Management Studio, and this is a server instance that hasn't previously had object locking enabled. So if I find one of my database objects and right click on it, I don't currently have the option to lock any objects. Instead, I have this option to set up object locking. Now, if I click on this, this will actually take me to the SQL Source Control window, and it gives me some further information about exactly what object locking is, what the setup script will actually do, because it creates a number of objects on the server to enable us to give us the ability to use object locking with SQL Source Control, and also outlines exactly the permissions that we need to use to run this script and create all of these objects. So let's open up this setup script. You're very free to review this setup script when you go through this process, but I'm going to execute this so that I'm ready and able to start working with object locking. Now, once we've installed object locking, it's available for us to use with any database on that SQL server that it's been enabled for. So I can switch very easily back into my virtual machine here and choose which of the objects that I wish to take a lock on as I make changes to that database object. So if I open up SQL Server Management Studio, I'll find my Redgate University Dev database, and let's imagine we wanted to work again on that contacts table that we've been making so many changes to. Here, if I want to take out a temporary lock, I can simply right click, and then you'll see I have this option now to lock this object. And if I choose this option, I get this little red padlock in the corner of that table icon telling me that this is now exclusively available for me to make changes to. So I'm able to make changes to this object. I can come into the designer and potentially add a new column to this list. If it's not Twitter that we're working with, maybe it's Facebook. We want to track Facebook IDs as an example. I can actually make these changes and save these changes ready and commit those changes into the source control repository. Now, once I've completed all of the work that I need to do and have committed this into the repository, so let's add our comment, added Facebook column, and chosen to include that, I can click commit, and now I want to free this object up for the rest of the team to work with. And so to do so, I have a couple of choices. I could right click on the object and choose unlock this object, or I can actually head to the locking tab within SQL Source Control. And this will show me a full and complete list of all of the objects that I currently have locks taken out on. Here you can see our contacts table, so I can pop a check in that box and choose to unlock the selected object. And this object is now free and available for my colleagues and my teammates to edit when I'm working in this shared development database model. So that's how we prevent overwriting of changes to objects when working in the shared model. As I said, if you're working in the dedicated model, then please do make sure you watch the class specifically on conflict resolution, because the principle really applies more to that dedicated development model. But please do come back and join us in other videos in this series where we'll be looking at things like applying filters to the objects that we add to our source control repository. Thanks very much.